All right, it is 8:48 Pacific time, West Coast, 11:48 East time. We're doing this live on the Twitter, but it's going to run on my podcast after. CC Sabathia is here. The Dodgers just won the World Series, and somehow I don't even feel like it's the lead story. This was a different version of the Grady Little leaving Pedro in for too long. Now, 17 years later, we have Kevin Cash pulling Blake Snell too soon. I'm going to ask you, since you've pitched in World Series, you've won rings. You're Blake Snell. You're dealing. You're at 71 pitches. Nobody's really touchy you. You give up one single, and the guy's taking you out. What would your reaction have been when he comes out?
I would have the same as his. But the thing is like, don't even let me run out there for the sixth if you're going to take me out after a single. You know what I'm saying? Like, just let Nick Anderson. If you want to get Anderson in the game, just let him start the game. Let him start the inning. Like, don't put him in the game with a runner on, and you got Mookie up there, and it just kind of fucked everything up. But I mean, it was a horrible move. He took him out 71 pitches. Guys won the Cy Young. He's dealing. He's got 9 strikeouts, whatever. I mean, the strikeouts he had, he was pitching well. But the Rays would have had to score more than 1 run to win this game anyway. So by them scoring 1 run, it didn't make a difference what move he made in the 6th inning, taking Snell out, because they weren't going to win this game 1-0 anyway.
Yeah, and they really almost lost the momentum that second, third, fourth innings when the Dodgers bullpen just shuts them down. They get to the starter. It really seems like they're going to go on a run. They never do. But I don't know. I think baseball is a particularly unusual sport in that a moment like this can shift momentum in ways that, just as a fan, when I'm watching, you just know something's wrong. Something's off. And I don't know, when you're on the field, can you feel that, or is that a fan thing?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, because when you're on the field, when you're in the dugout, I mean, for me, like watching as a starter, I mean, you can feel that. I mean, yeah, like, we know that this guy's our best option. And the thing is like, if you think that that's such a big situation, you're going to take him out at this point, don't bring in the middle reliever that's been getting fucking killed. Bring in your guy. If this is your spot and you're taking him out, then bring in the guy. Like, whoever that is at the back end of that bullpen needs to be in that spot right there to shut it down. If that's how you feel, if this is like one of those big momentum-shifting innings, or that single was going to get the Dodgers started. I mean, the top of the order, I think, was like 0 for 8.
They're 0 for 6.
7
yeah.
Ks. I mean, it was so like, what are we doing? I mean, it's just so many different things that I'm like, bring in your closer or Fairbanks at that point. It just didn't make sense.
And then if you're in the Dodgers dugout, let's say you're sitting in there, you're not pitching that day, and you're in the dugout and they do that. How does the vibe change in the dugout? Because you've done nothing the whole game.
Yeah, you've done nothing. This guy's in control. And he's capable of, kind of shutting you down all night. I mean, this is not like, some rookie. This is Blake Snell. This guy's got a Cy Young in his trophy case. You know what I'm saying? So when he's dealing like that, you start feeling bad. And then as soon as they make a mistake and take him out, and then Mookie hits a double, it's over. You might as well give us the trophy. You know what I'm saying? That's how I would have felt if I was in the Dodgers dugout.
So to recap, we're saying that when a guy becomes the first guy in the 21st century to have two 9K starts where he only gives up 2 hits, and you take that guy out for a guy who's given up a run in 6 consecutive appearances, maybe don't do that.
Maybe
one of my lessons from this.
Maybe don't do that, but like I said, they wasn't gonna win this game 1-0 anyway. So, we can sit here and kill Kevin Cash all we want, but
no, let's kill him some more.
They needed to score more runs. You know what I'm saying? Like,
here's the thing:
they just didn't hit enough.
We were talking about this before because this is happening in football too, and this is a recurring theme now, where the math and the advanced metrics and people grasping it, but then not leaving out like situations that are kind of outliers with the math, right? I think this is one thing Roberts got really good at. I don't think he would have pitched Urias, for the final 3 innings of these games in 2017-18. He would have been like, I got to bring in Kenley. This is when the closer comes in. Yeah. And now he's like, you know what? It's not just about the math. This guy's dealing. They're not going to hit him. I'm not taking him out. And we see the same thing in football where it's like, oh, the math says I should go for 2 here. And it's like, maybe not. If you don't get it, their defense could be fired up. Now they're still within 7. Like maybe the math is wrong in this case. And I just feel like we're prisoners of the math sometimes.
You're definitely prisoners of the math. And like, there's just no thought process. It's just like, this is what the numbers say. So, okay, we're going to make this move. And now, fortunately enough, like Dave Roberts could have lost his job going by the math. But when you go by the math, you're basically going by what the front office is telling you. So they're not going to fire you. You know what I'm saying? So now, so he got a chance to like actually manage his way through these games with the numbers, and we see how it turned out for him instead of just kind of trying to forecast and not really watching it. You got to watch the game. It's good to have a plan of how you want your bullpen to kind of lay out, but you got to watch the game and you know, let that dictate the way you bring these guys out of the bullpen so they don't have to be, each one has to be perfect.
Well, I almost wonder if the math in some ways is a little bit of a cop-out for the manager, right? Because if it doesn't work, he's like, hey, you told me to use the math. The math said to do this. And, I don't and it's almost like you get a get out of jail free card with it.
I don't even know if it's for the manager or just for the organization, period. Because everybody's in, you know what I'm saying? So it's a collective, just, you know, most of the time, especially with the Rays, I think it's like collective decisions and the Dodgers for sure. So
listen, I don't want to sound like the old guy, because I really did enjoy the last two rounds. And in general, we could talk about bubble playoff baseball. I had a good time. I really liked it. And I thought the last two rounds were compelling, especially a weekend ago where you had all those game 6s, game 7s, all that stuff was great. The thing that I really miss as a fan is watching a starting pitcher put his team on his back, you know, something you have some experience with. In these moments where it's like, all right, this is different. This is October. Everything is different. Every out's harder. Every strike's harder. And when you watch like what Snell was doing tonight, and if he could have gone into the 8th or even the 9th, that's what you need to flip a series when you're down 3-2. You need this superhuman performance from your best pitcher, which he was giving them. And that was so frustrating about this.
And the both starts where he throws so many balls. Normally he throws so many balls. His pitch count was so low in both starts. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was set up to go deep in both of those games. Like, and on the flip side of that, I mean, we see what actually wins is the starting pitching. And the Dodgers got those 2 huge starts out of Kershaw, and he may end up being the World Series MVP, and they finally get their title because they don't really go by the numbers and they let their starters actually pitch them into these playoff games because, you know, analytics makes sense for the 162. And, you know, starting to open and all that stuff, we all know that makes sense. When you get into the playoffs, you need starting pitching. I mean, you look at the Nats last year, you know, they had 3 really good starters. They had 2 great starters, and they got, you know, some great work by Anibal Sanchez. So you have to have the starting pitching, or else you're not going to win the World Series.
Well, it's funny. Football, basketball, and baseball all battling the same problem to some degree. Like in basketball, you have a team like the Bucks, where they have this system. They play Giannis 31 minutes a game. They're conservative. And they have this regular season strategy that really works, which I think is very similar to the Rays. But then you get to the playoffs. It's like, guess what? It's playoffs. Giannis has to go 40, 42. You look at how the Lakers were riding Davis and LeBron in some of their big games. It's just different. It's a different burden. You want to get your best guys as much out there as you possibly can without running them in the ground. But in baseball, it's flipped because, you know, I should have a 2003 ring, even though I'm not on the team. When Brady left Pedro in too long. So the flip side was this old school mentality of, it's Jack Morris through 9 innings, game 7, World Series. Yeah, it's your ace. That's what he does. And I'm not saying that's right either, but somewhere in the middle is probably where we should be with logic, I think.
Definitely somewhere in the middle. But if you got a guy that's hot, then you ride him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you look at Jimmy Butler. Like, look what he did to get that team to the finals.
Right.
Like, he was playing every minute. So sometimes it takes that. You know, it takes a guy that has to go on 3 days rest, or like Glasnow going on 2 days rest to get your team to the next round. So, yeah, I mean, to win the title, it's got to be some sacrifice. One guy's got to step. I mean, some guys got to step up and do. And you know, this is our guy. Or I mean, that's what you have to do to get that parade.
If I told you 71 pitches for Snell or 131 pitches for Snell, what?
131.
That's how I feel. I know he's younger guy. It's a different generation. Your generation was more used to having to do that. But
no, but this is the thing. I feel like when I was younger, they kind of gave me a pitch count. Like, I was always on a pitch count until I wasn't. You know what I'm saying? I was on a pitch count. I feel like they kept me on the pitch count so they can throw me 130 or 40 in the playoffs if they needed to. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why you keep his innings down during the regular season, so he can ride his.
I'm old. Not to complain. We got some breaking news as we were doing this. Justin Turner tested positive for the coronavirus, and that's why he left the game. Wow. So that was a report. I think he left the game like the 5th or 6th inning.
He flew out deep. He flew out deep to left field.
Maybe he left the game like
Anderson. Remember he flew out? Yeah.
So it's sometime in the last 3 innings he left the game. So I don't know if that was when they got it tested.
The weirdest World Series. I was about to say
some other subplots. We'll when we get that, we have to look at their career in a different way. At the same time, his postseason troubles had become part of the first sentence of his obituary in some ways, and now that's gone. It's like when John Elway won in '97. It's like that's gone. We never talk about that again.
Yeah, I don't think Up the Freeway had 3 World Series. You know what I'm saying? So I just think it's different. It was different in his case because he needed the ring because of how many appearances he made in the playoffs.
And he could always play the 2017 Astros card too.
He could definitely play that.
Remember that year we played the team that cheated? That's us on there. But, look, I never met the guy. Everybody says he's a great guy, and he seems so genuinely happy at the end. Not that everybody's going to be happy when we win the World Series, but certain people, you can just see the relief literally leave their body. I don't know. Was anybody like that in the Yankees in 2009?
Oh, I mean, I feel like A-Rod, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good call.
And then even like, I'm really close to David Price, but even watching him win the World Series, like he's a different guy now, so.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he had the same type of thing where he wasn't pitching good in the playoffs and, had a couple opportunities and, then he pitches great down the stretch and he's the reason why, pretty much why they win, you know what I'm saying? Like he held it down. So, yeah, I mean, it was just like, a relief, it's a totally different person.
It's so funny because when Price broke onto the scene in the 2008 playoffs and he destroyed the Red Sox in Game 7 and seemed to be cementing this reputation as this playoff guy, then it goes out the window. Mm-hmm. And then in 2018, all the Red Sox fans had given up on them. I think I was the only one. I was even tweeting. I was like, I'm not giving up on this guy. But in the playoffs, he really came through, and you're right. And then that's it. It's just the narrative ends. Do you ever think what would happen to you if you don't win in 2009? Like how you would have, some night it's in your mid 40s, hanging out on a Friday night on a deck thinking about it. Yeah.
Oh, I would have thought about. I think I thought about it every day for sure.
Really?
Yeah, that was the only reason I played though. I never played for numbers and none of that shit. I just played to win the World Series. So that was my ultimate goal. You know what I'm saying? Like that was it. Like that was literally the reason I was playing stepping on the field every time. So. Yeah, I mean that was a huge relief for me too. I mean, it was, I was 9 years in, searching for that title, and it was so close in 2007 and didn't pitch well. You know what I'm saying? So, I needed that in 2009 too for sure.
It looks like I think that's Corey Seager, right? I can never
Seager.
tell when that. Yeah,
I can see that.
I think he won the
MVP.
The MVP.
So he was the NLCS MVP and the World Series MVP.
I mean, he was terrifying. Those last 2 rounds. He was absolutely terrifying.
He's great. He's just never healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's unbelievable. The kid's, I mean, he's one of the best shortstops in the league. We just never talk about him because he's literally always hurt. But I mean, he can hit. He fields great. He's big shortstop.
He had 400, 2 homers, 5 RBI.
Yeah.
And was petrifying every single time. So when you won in 2009, what guy in the Yankees handled it the most inappropriately?
Shit, I don't even know. I think we all handle it inappropriately. That first night you win, man. I can't even remember. Like, were you
in New York or were you in Philly when you won?
We were in New York. We came back and won Game 6 in New York.
Oh wow!
That whole week was just like a blur. Like it was just so many different nights at the 40-40 Club, and we was at the Garden one night. It was the night of the parade. We had a party. The night we won, we went to One Oak. It was fun. I'm glad we were in New York. It was fun to be here,
A little bit different for the Dodgers probably in the Bubble World Series. I can't imagine, especially with this Turner news. I don't even know how they process that.
How they celebrate now, I know.
Yeah. But in general though, I think thumbs up for the Bubble playoffs. What would you have changed?
Nothing.
You thought too many teams. I thought that was the one thing.
Oh, just the 16 teams. Yeah, I mean that's the only thing. But as far as a fan, I loved the wild card round. It was so much fun watching those 3-game series. I just don't think that you can penalize the division winners next year by having them sit out 3 or 4 days while they play these games. So I don't know how they figure that out. But no, I really enjoyed the playoffs. The wild card was great. Watching down the stretch, NLDS, ALCS, all that stuff. It was fun to watch.
You know what I liked? I think the right two teams were in the World Series.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And I think the right team won. I think this is a rare case of like everything that should have happened probably happened, which I don't think always happens with baseball.
Yeah, no, this is definitely the case where it, like everybody was saying at the beginning of the season, it could be the Yankees and the Dodgers. But for me, I was saying it could be the Rays because I know how good they are, and they end up winning that division, winning 8 out of 10, putting the Yankees out of the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, that was right along the lines of how I thought the season was going to go. And, like you said, never in baseball does the right team usually win. And it seems like the Dodgers were poised. It's just not surprising. It'd be not surprising if the Yankees win in the next couple of years. You know what I'm saying? It's like They're just right there and just can't get over the hump. And, this year the Dodgers did.
And if you're the Rays, you're looking at this and you're going, Nick Anderson was our best pitcher all season, and he just stunk when it mattered the most. For whether it was overuse or whether the first 60 games were a little fluky, who knows? You also had Lau, Adames couldn't hit. Neither of those guys really stepped up. And then Glasnow in his 2 starts wasn't great either. I just didn't think they played that well,
They didn't, and Lau and Adames definitely hurt him for sure. I thought Glasnow would have been really good in his second start. He was throwing the ball better, but Mookie, I really feel like that first at bat, Mookie, having an 8 or 9 pitch at bat, then hitting the double, I think it just sent him on a spiral again where he wanted to nibble. Because that first game, he was just trying to nibble, spiking curveballs, walking so many guys. And I think he was coming out the second game to be aggressive. Mookie puts a great at bat on him and then just fucked his whole game plan up.
All right, let's do it. Let's just fucking do it. I waited how many minutes? 19? Mookie. So I came on your podcast before the season even started. And then I've had to spend the last few months with all the Dodger fans I know in my life repeatedly telling me how great he is. And then he just had so many different awesome Mookie moments. I didn't even feel like he wasn't scorching hot at any point, but has this ability to just make different things happen over the course of a game and a series. And then you see tonight, like he's probably one of 3 dudes who scores from third on a sharp grounder to first base. When the guy's holding him on, he scores anyway. It doesn't matter. He gets the insurance home run, which was a Mookie specialty, plays with so much joy and energy. And I really do think, like, if you're that Dodgers team that's just getting kicked in the nuts all decade and you bring fresh blood in, a guy who's won, a guy who is better at his position than anyone else in the league except for Trout. And there's just this inner confidence that you get when there's somebody like that in your team who's just unshakable. What am I missing?
You hit it right on the head. I mean, and when we talked about this, we talked about the Dodgers and, me and you texting back and forth and them having trouble, in the playoffs and getting over the hump. And I was like, bro, they got Mookie. Like Mookie's a winner. He did it in Boston. And like you said, second to Trout, Sky's best player in the league, man. And I said that earlier this week. But Mookie's the face of baseball, whether you like it or not. You know what I'm saying? This guy needs every fucking commercial. He made the jumping catch he made the other day. Like, this guy's unbelievable, man. So, people can, they were all of my comments killing me about the comment I made about him. But for me,
what was your comment?
I said he's the best in the game. I said he's the best player in the game because he's the face of the game now. Like, we all know Mike Trout has the talent, but I don't think that he wants to be the dynamic, off the field charismatic player that Mookie is, guy that Mookie is off the field. And I think he's the perfect guy to take us in the next chapter, him and Aaron Judge. So, Mookie's the best player in the game, period.
Mike Trout's the perfect guy for the people who just follow baseball by using math. And the math is awesome for him. And it's like, he was the MVP again. I was like, wait a second. I thought they were 75 and 97.
He's the MVP.
Yeah, he's the MVP again. Man. Yeah, it's great. No, he's the best guy. And then he has a chance to get out of there. This Anaheim situation where every year they stink or they're disappointing, they spend their money the wrong ways, and he's like, double down. Another 12 years, sign me up. Like, I don't know. I just, if you gave me the choice, I've got to follow Mookie for so many years. You got to see him in the playoffs. I would just, how is he not the best guy in the league?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm with you.
I don't understand what people aren't seeing in this guy. He's got 2 titles now in 2 of the biggest markets in the game. I mean, breaking a drought since 1988 with the Dodgers, and anytime you win in Boston, it's a big deal. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what people want, man. And he always shows up. He shows up on every stage. Like you said, he wasn't scorching hot, but he gets the double when you need it down the line. He gets the insurance run. He's going to fucking make every play and beyond in the outfield. He runs the bases like no other. Like, I just don't know what else you want in a baseball player.
Well, and I think he's a guy baseball desperately needs right now for all the reasons you've discussed on your podcast. The fact that he's kind of the most fun baseball player, for lack of a better word, like just personality wise, and the joy that he plays with reminds me of, hearing like my dad talk about what it was like to watch Willie Mays way back when, just like how much it was fun, how much fun it was just to watch him play center field and just bat 4 times a game. Some guys just have a certain charisma to them. I feel like Pedro was like that.
Yeah.
And I think he's the guy like that now. And if you're baseball and your biggest problem is the inability to basically create real star power compared to the NBA, where every year the NBA has 3-4 new guys come in the league and they're immediately as famous as Mike Trout. Zion plays 25 games and he's as famous as Mike Trout. And Mookie's, I think, baseball's best chance, especially being in the Los Angeles market, and what a smart guy he is and how thoughtful he is about everything, and that they should be using him as an asset.
I think so. You know what the other leagues do really, really well is they use their sponsors, the big companies that sponsor their league. They use their players in their commercials. So you have. Now you have the State Farm commercials where you have, you got Dame Lillard and you got CP3. I just saw some other young point guard that just joined them in that stuff. But like they do a good job of making these guys like household names by using their sponsors in the commercials. I don't think MLB does a good job of that. Like I was watching, an NFL game the other day, and I love Larry Fitzgerald, Hall of Fame player, but he's got a commercial on national TV. Like, how does Kristen Yelich not have a commercial? Or like some of these guys like that we can showcase around our league that we use our sponsors to put these guys in these national commercials.
Well, think about some of the commercials, right? You had State Farm, Chris Paul, and then James Harden was in there a little bit, but mostly Chris Paul. And think about like just what that State Farm thing has done for Chris Paul to make him seem like a bigger star. All the stuff LeBron's done, Joel Embiid and Hulu. You go on and on, but when we watch Aaron Rodgers, the quarterbacks are always in there.
That's who it was. It was Pat Mahomes. That's who it was. It was Mahomes. Yeah, it was Mahomes. Yeah.
Yeah, and the commercials really, JJ Watt, these commercials really give these guys life and make them seem larger than the sport. And baseball has really not been able to cross that line the last 10 years. I think Ortiz was probably the last guy who felt big like that,
For sure. Yeah, that had like the commercials and the national.
And was like a character,
He was a character. Big Papi's a character for sure. Like, I mean, he's a great guy, but he's, he's Big Papi. So yeah, he's got that character for sure.
Well, they have a whole offseason to figure out. When do you think baseball comes back?
I think if they can agree on what the money's going to look like, which I think is going to take long time, just like it did this time. I would love to see them come back in the spring, but I just don't. They got to get working on that right now. If they want to try to figure out, what it's going to look like with no fans in the stands. Are they going to try to bubble it? They got a lot to sort through, but I would love to see them start on time. I don't know why they couldn't start on time, because they're the only league that's like right on schedule.
Right.
We started, we ended our normal schedule, so you could easily start back in February and be fine.
Did you think they learned anything from from the whole bubble experience that they can actually use for the regular season when things get more normal, like the 7-inning doubleheaders, stuff like that?
I don't think they'll keep the 7-inning doubleheaders, but I do hope they keep putting the runner on second base after like the 10th or 11th inning.
Okay.
just to save some of these bullpens, save some of these ups and downs that you have to do when you get into some of these long games. So I would love to see them schedule 7-inning doubleheaders and guys play Sunday and then get Monday off. You know what I'm saying? Or have Monday and Thursday off if you play a doubleheader on Sunday. So, but I just don't see them keeping them at 7 games. And, that's harder on the players. I think guys would love to play 7-game doubleheaders, 7-inning doubleheaders, but I don't think the league would go for that. They're going to want them to play 9.
I vote for the Over Manager of the Year award. I think is something they should add. Like this year, our nominees are Kevin Cash.
No, because that was just one move. Like you would have to think of somebody else. You can't give Kevin Cash the Over Manager of the Year because he made it to the World Series with that payroll. So
that's true. Very fair.
It would have to be somebody else.
That's what he should say in the press conference when they're like, Kevin, what happened with that Blake Snell thing? He's like, look, fuck you. Did you see our payroll? I'm allowed a mistake. Do you know how much pressure I'm under? Hey, most tortured baseball franchise combo. So the Dodgers, who hadn't won since the Gibby homer and had probably had more stomach punches, at least over the last 12 years than anybody. Yeah. I always thought it was neck and neck with them and the Mets fans who hadn't won since 86, where you could be a 40-year-old Mets fan now, born in 1980, and have no recollection of really anything good, vague memory of 86 maybe, and that's it. So just because they have so many fans, I always felt like it was Mets, Dodgers. Some other people would say Padres are in there, Rangers, the Indians, although I feel like when LeBron won the title, the Indians almost got taken off the hook by LeBron.
Nah, the Indians still in there. And I say we. They've blown some big ass leads. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, they sure have.
They've blown some leads. So
who's your most tortured? Do you have Indians or do you have the Mets? Who do you have? Mets only 33 years.
I would say the Braves too.
Right, because they have the 95 title, but it's kind of like the asterisk on it. Yeah,
they have so many division titles. So many division titles, so many playoff appearances. So if I would have to go Cleveland number 1, and then I would go Atlanta number 2, and then the Mets.
Wow. So the case for the Padres, who I don't think have a shitload of fans, but they've also never won the World Series.
Yeah, but the Padres, like, it's San Diego, so people just happy.
Yeah, they're just happy.
They just want to go to the game and flip flops and shit, see a couple home runs. I mean, I honestly think they're on the rise though. With Tatis, and you got Manny for a couple more years. You got Hosmer. Yeah. They got some good pitching, on the team and on the way. So I just feel like people in San Diego are always optimistic. So they're not really that pressed about winning the championship. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the case for them being tortured.
Tito strikes out right there, bases loaded. No matter, they still lose 4 straight. Like it don't make a difference.
And then they had 84 against the Tigers.
Shit, I don't even.
And that's really it. But your point about them being in San Diego, at least they're in San Diego, whereas you're in Cleveland. There's some cold, hard winners.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're in San Diego, you can just go outside, go to the beach, take a walk, do whatever you need to do, go play some golf. In Cleveland, man, you got to sit and let that shit fucking brew and stew. And I'm sure 2016 was rough, man. Losing to the Cubs and being up 3-1. And, man. I mean,
well, and then you had the Rangers too, who've had some bad ones. That Ron Washington year was brutal.
Back-to-back World Series losses, right?
Yeah. So, and they
I still say the Braves because the Braves expect to win. You know what I'm saying? Like they put their team together to win the AL East. They put their team together. They're always looking towards the World Series, and they got all these division titles. So, I mean, they have to be right up there too. That shit's got to be frustrating. Like, I don't want my team going to the playoffs and losing every year in the ALDS or, in the wild card game. Like, that shit's got to be frustrating too.
Well, they also have just everything going on in Atlanta sports, which has been the totality of it is pretty bad. Their one revenge is anytime Smoltz announces the Yankees playoff game and is openly rooting for the other team that the Braves fans, I think it just.
But he was openly rooting for the Dodgers this time too. I'm like, yo.
Oh, you think he was? So do you pick up on that stuff?
What? Are you kidding me? Like 5 minutes into the game, like it's insane. Like you can't do that, man. Like what are you guys talking about? They were definitely rooting for the Dodgers. All these guys.
Well, the other piece we didn't talk about yet was, or we talked about a little bit, Dave Roberts, who I think everybody just loves. I know I love him because he changed my life as a baseball fan. But an awesome guy and somebody that I think would have been fired if they didn't win the World Series, right? They have to make a move at that point.
But again, I don't know because he's managing by the numbers. The numbers come down from upstairs. Because I think if you were going to make a move, I mean, you know, they could have made a move after 17. They could have made a move after 18. You know what I'm saying? Like they've been in the World Series the last couple of years, and they could have easily made a move back then, but he was managing by their numbers. So it's hard to fire. You got to fire the whole fucking front office. You're going to fire the manager. You know what I'm saying? But how some of these teams run their team. So
well, that's the thing about sports now. The everybody else comes and goes, but the three dudes crunching numbers for the owner's son in the front office, those guys stick around for 10 years. And then you say, hey, man, I am the right numbers. But I do think coming off game 4, which was so devastating, which I know you saw on tape, because I think you fell asleep.
Yeah, I fell
asleep. Yeah,
I fell asleep. Yeah.
But you caught it eventually.
I did.
That was such a devastating loss, and it feels like if they had lost that, I don't know what you do if you're the Dodgers. Like, wow, every year we're just going to lose in the worst way possible.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the manager's fault. You have to blame somebody.
I'm gonna be completely honest. If they lose this World Series to the Rays, that's a bad look. He may get fired.
Yeah. Well,
because it's the
now
Rays,
he's going to get a 5-year extension.
Yeah. Doc's a good dude though, so he deserves it, man. I mean, I've known him since I was, I think, like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
He was in the Indians organization when I first got drafted. So he's always been good to me. Good dude.
So the lessons from this World Series: it's always good to outspend the other team by 3 times as much money. I think we learned that. That's a bonus. Anytime you can pick up the best player in baseball for 52 cents on the dollar, do that every time.
Every time.
That's great. And don't give up on one of the best pitchers of the last couple generations. The math is going to come around on that dude. It finally did. I was happy for him. Do you think a piece with Kershaw, though, was the fact that you didn't have the 6-month regular season and it was shorter? Or maybe he had a little more strength stamina because it was a shortened season, or am I overthinking that?
Yeah, I mean, he was probably a lot more, sharp because he didn't have to, go through the rigors of a whole summer pitching. But I mean, when you put it like that, I almost think like, damn, like, yeah, he was like a little more fresher. So maybe that's why he was able to pitch well. You know what I'm saying? I don't want anybody to have like any asterisks on him. Like,
no.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, he finally pitched well these high pressure games. He finally pitched well in the playoffs. I just want to see him, like, finally people just stop fucking with him and let him, like, go into the Hall of Fame. Like, this guy don't pitch another inning right now. He's into the Hall of Fame. So, it's good to see him actually pitch them into a World Series victory instead of pitching them out of it,
It's funny. Before this playoffs, I only had 3 asterisk World Series. 81, because they stopped for 2 months. And they come back, and it was just, plus the Dodgers and the Yankees were in the World Series. So I was determined to stick an asterisk on it. 95, which really the 2020 season was much more asterisk.
95, they came back when
they came back like in May, and everyone's mad at baseball. You weren't in the league yet, but everybody was mad about the lockout and the strike and the whole thing. And then the Braves won, and we were all like, fuck it. And I always felt that was a little asterisk. And then the 2009 World Series, just because you won. Because the Yankees,
you can put asterisks on that all you want.
You won with A-Rod. A-Rod's A-Rod, the asterisk. The asterisk is what stands for the A.
Nah, man. You know what? So many guys did what he did, but still couldn't hit a fucking baseball. You still got to be able to hit that thing.
You guys were the best team that year. I have to admit,
we really were from top to bottom. And I look back on some of the line. I got a lineup card in my office, and I look back. I'll be like, man, that team was really, really good. And you know what was good about that team is like we all got along. Yeah, that's very rare, especially in the first year coming together like that. We had a blast. We had a good team.
Yeah, that team was loaded. You beat the Angels in the ALCS, right? And then the Phillies, and then Pedro got the loss in the deciding game. I think that was the last game of his career.
Yeah, it was, man. It was kind of sad to watch because I knew going into that game we were going to win that game. Right. Like with him starting at that point in his career, it was like our best option. You know what I'm saying? So we needed to win that game 6, and I felt really confident about that. It was kind of sad to watch.
Before we go, any predictions for the offseason? Because you're like Jalen. You're a guy who knows things. Things come across your desk that don't come to the typical man.
I haven't really been like checking in on offseason stuff yet, just because I have been like so locked in on the World Series. But I mean, and plus I just got to wait to see like who's going to have
what the rules are.
Yeah, like who's going to have money to spend and where guys are going to go. But I think Bauer gets a big 1-year deal somewhere. Impactful. I think somebody's going to want him to pitch in the playoff race for them. And I think it's going to be a 1-year deal because they got to figure out with this guy's social media and all that shit what this is actually going to be like having him in the clubhouse. So I think he gets a big 1-year deal with a contender. I think Stroman gets a deal.
I like Stroman.
I think a lot of guys like Stroman. I like Stroman too. He's just got to be locked in and focused on ready to pitch. But I think you put him in a spot where the fans and the organization demands him to be locked in and ready. I think he'll be great for you.
One of my best friends, diehard Yankee fan, Jacko, he's going to riot if the Yankees don't sign LeMahieu. He's already
I think the Bronx will riot if the Yankees don't sign LeMahieu. Everybody wants DJ back, bro.
No, he's like, they can't mess around with this. They make so much money. Don't mess around with this. Now, granted, they're not going to make as much money this year, but he's beloved. He might be the most beloved position guy since I don't know.
Since Derek. But
yeah, I wanted you to say it. I didn't want to say it.
No, but I'm just thinking like, yeah, I mean, and he plays every day. And I mean, has there ever been like a guy that signed as a free agent that's been more beloved than him?
No, I mean, he's
great. You know what I'm saying? Like he was homegrown. Like all these guys that are really like beloved Yankees are mainly homegrown. This guy came from Colorado and people freak out about him. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the one guy that we can't afford to not sign for sure.
All right. So you're doing R2C2, I think, later this week and all through the off season. Get some football, some basketball. Maybe
it's not the off season. This is the on season for me. Now it's like football and basketball time. So if I was playing, this would be the best time for me because it's actually football season.
Do you think they should have played that Raiders game when your offensive line hadn't even practiced because everybody was beating COVID quarantine? Well, that was kind of bogus.
No, but Cam and the Patriots had to play against the Chiefs. You know what I'm saying? That when they didn't get to practice that all that time. Well, Cam didn't play.
They could have moved it a day.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't gonna win that game anyway. We short. Like we the thing about like I was saying this on Sunday. Like the quarterback play is crazy. Like if you just watch the Tennessee and Pittsburgh game, Tennessee's a really, really good team. Yeah. But their quarterback isn't as good as Ben Roethlisberger. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really comes down to the quarterback play. And that's why I was so excited to watch Kyler Murray against Russell Wilson on Sunday night and just to watch him step up and kind of, like, put himself in those conversations. You watch, like, Justin Herbert, like, you could tell he's going to be really good. You watch Joe Burrow, you know that guy's going to be really good. And then you watch some of like these second-tier quarterbacks, Tannehill, Derek Carr, these other guys, and the teams are like teetering right there to be really good, but they're not going to take that next step because the quarterback's just not great.
If Tua can join that Burrow-Herbert conversation, and this ends up being a historic draft, that'll be awesome.
Man, I think Tua ends up being the Phillip Rivers to the Roethlisberger and Eli of Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert.
Wow. Bold prediction.
Is that bold? Is that bold prediction? He still had a good career, Phillip Rivers, right?
Yeah. It's fine. You just never wanted to put him in a tease, and you never wanted to bet on him in the playoffs, but it was a really good career.
I think he ends up the third best out of these three quarterbacks this year.
He's in the best situation team-wise because Miami in that division, it's dying to get stolen by anybody. And they're 3-3. And if he can upgrade from Fitz and they have an easier schedule and
but I think the Bills are really good. I think Josh Allen's really good.
Really? I'm not a believer yet.
No?
Yeah. I don't like my quarterbacks up and down.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I don't trust him yet. He's got to win my trust. Kyler, I'm in on because I have him on both fantasy teams and I've watched a lot of the cards.
Kyler's nice, man.
He's so good. The weird thing about him, though, he is his quarterback personality. It's not like he doesn't have that swagger leader thing like that Russ has. He's almost like it's almost like watching a little kid who's been homeschooled and hasn't interacted with the other kids in the class yet. And then when you see him interact, he got really mad. He was selling out. Who was he yelling at? The two tight ends who didn't block.
Oh yeah.
And he was like throwing a tantrum. I was like, I'm kind of into this, but at the same time, he didn't say anything for an hour.
But then for me, it just feels like he doesn't panic. You know what I'm saying? Like he won't panic at all. Like and like you said, I've been watching him a lot the last 2 years, and I mean, he runs around the field and it looks frantic, but I feel like he's under control. It's almost like when you're watching Lamar Jackson, like he's all over the place, but he's under control. He knows exactly what the fuck's going on, and Kyler Murray's the same way.
Well, with Kyler, like they were talking about him growing as a quarterback, and they were like, he has to be, just more vocal. And then they were like, he's just got to talk more. Because it's like when you have a quiet quarterback, that's a weird dynamic, right? So, but he's also young. I think he's like young. 21 or 22.
Yeah,
I think he's like 2 years younger than Burrow.
Yeah, he's a year or two younger than Burrow. But they keep saying that Justin Herbert's quiet, but this guy's throwing dimes all over the fucking field.
Right.
You don't have to say a word if you throw the ball like that guy.
Well, Herbert looks like he's like 13 years old. He's another one. He looks like a little kid who got to play with the adults. And then you watch him, and he's throwing 55-yarders.
Man, he's so advanced for a rookie, man. It sucks as a fucking Raider fan because he's in my division. And we got Mahomes. Like, we have to watch this guy kill us for a long time, but he's really good, man.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's tough. You hate having the killer quarterbacks in your division. It's something I never really had to worry about the last 20 years. So
you had the killer quarterback.
Yeah, we had the killer, and everybody else had the crap ones. But yeah, I think it's a really exciting quarterback time. I love watching Murray. Wilson's been amazing. Mahomes, all the rookies. You go on down the line. Rodgers is a little rejuvenated. The guys
Brady might be in the MVP running now after last week.
Well, do you think it should count for his MVP candidacy that he talked Gronk into coming out of retirement, and then he also gets Antonio? Like he's actually like part-time GM for them.
Oh no, this guy, part-time GM. This guy's the best fucking GM in the league. What are you talking about, part-time GM? Look at the team he put around. He got Fournette. He got AB coming. Right. He got Gronk. Like, I mean, this guy's the best GM in the league. He's a better GM than Belichick. He's got more talent than they got up in New England.
See, I think that should count. One of my big regrets in 2011, I voted Derrick Rose to win, and because I have a vote, and I voted for Derrick Rose for NBA MVP. And I should have voted for Wade because he was one of the best three guys that year. But more importantly, he convinced LeBron to come play with him in Miami. He convinced LeBron to leave Cleveland and play with him. Like that should have counted his candidacy, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and Bosh.
I mean, but that definitely counts. I mean, look at like what Brady's doing down there. You know what I'm saying? With all these guys that he gets around, and I mean, you got Fournette running hard, and if you can keep that guy healthy, I mean, he's just gonna make that team so much better. Take the pressure off Brady. This guy's throwing ball 50 yards in the air again now. Like they look good. Tampa looks really good.
I don't know what happened to Mike Evans, if there's a decoy, whatever. But Scotty Miller was, he's open a lot in these games, and you just think like, if you just take Antonio Brown and give him these Scotty Miller plays, now I'm frightened.
Man, those are he's going to the house with those.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like all that shit in the inside, those little routes that he catches, he's taking that to the house. So it's going to be, I mean, that's going to be fun to watch. Them and the Saints down the stretch. If
Brady was at my age, I would pick them to win the Super Bowl. I'm still not convinced. I'm still not convinced you could do it for 5 months, but he looks good right now.
I think if they can protect him, he takes one hit. I mean, he's one hit away. But if they can protect him, man, like they did last week, obviously I watched the whole game playing against the Raiders, but if they can protect, they keep him standing up. There's no stopping.
Well, think about how your body changed from like age 30 to age 40, just for what you were doing for a living, and how you started to feel things differently as you hit your mid-late 30s. Now imagine being a quarterback at age 43. I don't care how much TB12, how much plyometrics, all the shit that he's doing. At some point, you're 43.
Yeah.
And you're getting hit the wrong way, the wrong time. And there's no way, I don't know how physically you can endure that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's why he's just one bad hit away. But if he can hand the shit off to Fournette and, throw these little routes to AB and then have his tight ends ready, I mean, I just don't see how they don't keep this rolling and getting even better. And their defense is so good.
Defense is really good.
Defense is so fast, man. So they got it. They pretty much got it all rolling right now.
Yeah, they're the most complete team. They
right
can
now,
score.
Sure.
They can play from behind, which I think is important. They can protect the lead. They can block. And they can make plays on defense, which I think that's the only team you could say all of those things about. All right, CC, pleasure as always. I enjoyed the bubble playoffs. It was fun listening to you guys. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for staying up late.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right.